Imagine waking up one morning and realizing millions of dollars just vanished. Not from Wall Street, but from your local diner, hotel, and gas station. That's the reality gripping parts of America in 2025. Why? Because Canada stopped visiting. What began as a diplomatic dispute has turned into a full-blown tourism boycott, and U.S. states once dependent on our northern neighbors are bleeding money, fast. Beaches are empty, casinos are silent, even Disney feels different. This isn't just a travel story, it's an economic disaster in slow motion. Which states are suffering the most? Stay tuned because the countdown might just include your hometown. These are the 10 U.S. states hit hardest by Canada's tourism freeze. Number 10, Maine. Picture a quiet summer morning in Bar Harbor. Normally you'd hear chatter from tourists, see lines at lobster shacks, and watch packed ferries leaving for Acadia National Park. But in 2025, there's a strange silence, and a painful reason behind it. Canada's tourism boycott has hit Maine hard, turning what was once a bustling summer escape into a shadow of itself. Canadian tourists made up nearly 25% of Maine's summer tourism. In 2024, 1.3 million Canadians visited, pumping nearly $975 million, 0 cents, into the local economy. But this year, that number dropped by almost 60%. That's hundreds of millions lost overnight. Coastal towns like Calais, Houlton, and Jackman, once thriving, now struggle to stay afloat. Airbnb rentals sit empty, shops cut hours, tour operators cancel bookings. Even Acadia National Park saw a 20% dip in foot traffic. It's not just nature losing visitors, it's local economies losing lifelines. Some hotels reported a 40% decline in foreign bookings. Souvenir shops, gas stations, moose tour guides, all feeling the sting. Maine's officials launched ad campaigns targeting Europeans and domestic travelers. But let's face it, replacing nearly 1 million loyal Canadian visitors is like trying to refill the Atlantic with a garden hose. The loss goes beyond money, it's cultural, it's emotional, and it's a wake-up call. Maine didn't just lose tourists, it lost neighbors who'd been crossing that border for decades, and the silence they left behind is louder than ever. Number 9, Vermont. Vermont, the land of maple syrup, snowy slopes, and picture-perfect inns, has always had a special relationship with Canadian tourists. But in 2025, that cozy charm is fading fast. Thanks to Canada's sweeping tourism boycott, Vermont's economy is taking a brutal hit, and the impact is showing up everywhere from ski lifts to sugar shacks. Before the boycott, over 500,000 Canadians visited Vermont annually. That's 15% of all tourists. They came to ski in Stowe, shop in Burlington, and fill up charming B&Bs across the state. But this year, they're gone. And the result? A $300 million 0 cents shortfall in tourism revenue. Boutiques in Burlington report sales down by 25%. Ski resorts saw a 30% drop in Canadian winter bookings. Even maple syrup sales have slipped, a surprising side effect of losing Canadian tourists who often bought it by the gallon. Meanwhile, towns like Montpelier and Middlebury are dotted with half-empty inns and struggling roadside shops. For many Vermonters, this isn't just about lost revenue. It's about lost relationships. Canadians weren't one-time visitors, they were seasonal regulars. Their absence feels like a neighborhood cafe without its familiar faces. Officials are scrambling, launching new ad campaigns across Europe and the US, but replacing that kind of loyalty is nearly impossible. Vermont didn't just lose tourists, it lost friends. And now, the state's postcard-perfect charm feels just a little colder and a lot quieter. Number 8, Minnesota. Minnesota, with its peaceful lakes, friendly small towns, and vibrant cities, has long been a favorite escape for Canadians, especially those from Manitoba and Ontario. But in 2025, the silence on the shores of Lake Superior says it all. The Canadian tourism boycott has frozen more than just relationships, it's frozen revenue. In 2024, over 600,000 Canadians visited Minnesota, spending nearly $700 million, 0 cents. This year, that number has plunged by 55%. Cities like Duluth and Minneapolis, once buzzing with cross-border shoppers and hockey fans, now feel strangely still. At the Mall of America, Canadian credit card activity is down 18%. In border towns like International Falls, even bait shops and gas stations report 30% plus drops in sales. The ripple effect reaches deep. Cabin rentals, fishing lodges, and lake tours are suffering major losses. Summer tourism, once fueled by loyal Canadian families, is now barely keeping afloat. Minnesota's Department of Tourism projects a $400 million 0 cents revenue loss tied directly to the boycott. And it's not just money. Canadian teams used to flood local hockey tournaments. Now registrations are at record lows. Timeshares sit vacant. Resorts are cutting staff. Some towns feel like they've lost a part of their identity. Minnesota is pushing back with domestic promotions and travel incentives, but the truth is it's hard to replace decades of friendship, loyalty, and shared summers. For the land of 10,000 lakes, the absence of Canadian visitors feels like a deep freeze, one that's hard to thaw. Number 7. Washington. In the Pacific Northwest, Washington State was once Canada's weekend playground. From Vancouver, it was just a short drive to Seattle's coffee shops, outlet malls in Bellingham, or the peaceful beaches of Point Roberts. But in 2025, that cross-bender buzz has faded into silence, and businesses are paying the price. Before the boycott, over 3.1 million Canadians visited Washington annually, spending more than $1 billion, $100 million, 0 cents. Now, border crossings are down by 62%, and it's changing everything. In Whatcom County, nearly half of all weekend retail sales used to come from Canadian shoppers. Today, stores sit half empty, and small businesses are barely hanging on. Point Roberts, a quirky U.S. exclave surrounded by Canadian waters, feels like a ghost town. With almost all of its economy tied to Canadians, real estate values have plummeted, shops have shuttered, and even the local school faces closure. Seattle's hotel bookings have dropped, Pike Place Market has seen lower foot traffic, and even the Seattle Mariners report steep declines in ticket sales from Canadian fans. In Bellingham, outlet malls that once buzzed with shoppers now echo with emptiness. The Washington State Tourism Board estimates a $700 million 0 cents loss tied to the Canadian boycott. Ad campaigns, influencer promos, and digital outreach are in motion, but the damage runs deeper than dollars. Washington didn't just lose customers, it lost familiar faces, family visitors, and trusted neighbors. And as the boycott continues, the evergreen state is feeling increasingly alone and economically exposed. Number 6. Michigan. Michigan and Canada aren't just neighbors, they're practically family. Separated by a few bridges and a lot of history, cities like Detroit and Windsor have thrived on cross-border connection. But in 2025, that bond is breaking. And for Michigan, the fallout is both emotional and economic. In 2024, nearly 4 million Canadians crossed into Michigan, spending an estimated $1 billion, $200 million, 0 cents on hotels, casinos, shopping, and entertainment. But since the boycott, border traffic has plummeted by over 60%. That's 2.4 million fewer visitors, gone in a flash. Detroit's iconic Greek Town Casino saw a 35% drop in foreign patrons. Mackinac Island ferry services are operating at half capacity. Gas stations in Port Huron, once flooded with Canadians filling up before heading home, have seen sales slump by 40%. The charming Bavarian village of Frankenmuth, a winter favorite, lost an estimated $11 million, 0 cents, in tourism revenue this year alone. In Sault Ste. Marie, business owners report seeing only a handful of Canadian plates, where there used to be dozens daily. Michigan's tourism board is scrambling, pivoting to domestic and even overseas markets. But let's be honest, you can't replace generations of loyal, returning visitors overnight. This isn't just an economic hit, it's a cultural heartbreak. Hockey games, shared lakes, family reunions, gone quiet. For Michigan, the Canadian boycott didn't just freeze spending, it froze a friendship, and thawing it might take longer than anyone's prepared for. Number 5. Arizona. Arizona, land of winter sunshine, desert golf courses, and breathtaking canyons, has long been a second home for Canada's snowbirds. Every year, thousands of retirees fled the cold north for the warmth of Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Tucson. But in 2025, the Grand Canyon state feels emptier than ever. And it's not just the dry air, it's the missing Canadians. Last year, over 900,000 Canadians spent part of their winter in Arizona, contributing a massive $1 billion, $500 million, 0 cents, to the state's economy. This year, that number has collapsed by nearly 45%. In Mesa and Yuma, homes once owned by Canadians are now being sold at double the usual rate. RV parks have gone from full-capacity waitlists to desperate discount deals. Golf courses in Sun City and Green Valley are so quiet, tee times don't even fill up. Restaurants in Sedona are offering buy one, get one free to survive the slump. Real estate markets are especially shaken. Listings marked previously Canadian-owned have become a local trend. Meanwhile, retailers, service providers, and even local governments are feeling the void. With less tourist tax income, cities are cutting public events and delaying infrastructure repair. Arizona's tourism officials estimate a $600 million 0-cents loss in 2025, and that doesn't count the emotional toll. These weren't one-time tourists. Many came every winter for 10 to 15 years. They were neighbors. Now they're just gone. And for Arizona, that loss isn't just financial, it's deeply personal. Number 4, Nevada. Nevada, the land of lights, luck, and late nights. It's a place where the economy spins on entertainment, and for years, Canadian tourists played a huge role in keeping the reels turning. But in 2025, the jackpot has dried up. Canada's tourism boycott has left the Silver State facing a massive cold streak. In a typical year, 1.8 million Canadians visit Nevada, spending an eye-popping $1,300,000,000 0 cents. But since the boycott, those numbers have plunged nearly 58%. On the Las Vegas Strip, hotels report a 22% drop in occupancy during Canadian heavy weeks. Casino floors, once alive with cheering players, are quieter, missing their regular high rollers from the north. Shows like Cirque du Soleil, which once drew massive international crowds, have been forced to cancel performances. In Reno and Lake Tahoe, ski resorts and poker rooms are hurting too, some reporting 35% fewer bookings from Canadians this winter. Beyond the glitz, the pain is real. Rideshare drivers, restaurant workers, hotel staff, all feeling the ripple. Nevada's tourism authority estimates $700 million 0 cents in losses directly tied to the Canadian market. Airlines have pulled back routes, hotels have frozen hiring, businesses that thrived on tourism are now barely breaking even. But it's not just about money, it's about energy. Canadians brought a unique mix of fun and familiarity. They weren't just tourists, they were loyal patrons. And in a state where every visitor counts, their absence is more than noticeable. It's haunting. Number 3, California. California, a state built on sunshine, surf, and star power, is no stranger to tourism. From Los Angeles to San Francisco, millions flock to its beaches, wine valleys, and theme parks every year. But in 2025, one loyal group has vanished from the scene: Canadian tourists. And the Golden State's tourism machine is starting to sputter. In 2024, over 2.3 million Canadians visited California, spending close to $1,800,000,000 0 cents. But since the boycott, that number has fallen by more than 60%, and the consequences are everywhere. In Anaheim, Disneyland reports a 25% drop in international family ticket sales. In San Francisco, iconic tourist spots like Pier 39 and Fisherman's Wharf have seen foot traffic dip by over 30%. Even along the scenic Pacific Coast Highway, boutique hotels and restaurants in towns like Pismo Beach and Carmel by the Sea are struggling, some even closing doors. The California Department of Tourism estimates a $900 million 0 cents hit to the economy from lost Canadian travel alone. Airlines have reduced direct flights from Toronto and Vancouver to LAX and SFO by over 35%. Farmers markets, wineries, and luxury retailers all feeling the void. These weren't casual tourists. Many Canadians owned second homes here or visited yearly. Their absence isn't just revenue lost, it's tradition broken. For a state that thrives on motion, color, and global flair, the loss of its northern neighbors has dimmed the glow. California hasn't stopped shining, but it's definitely flickering. Number 2, Florida. Florida without Canadians? That's like Disney without Mickey. Almost unimaginable. But in 2025, the Sunshine State is grappling with a reality no one saw coming. Canada's tourism boycott has left beaches quiet, golf courses half empty, and condos abandoned. Last year, over 3.6 million Canadians visited Florida, more than any other international group. They spent a staggering $3,100,000,000 0 cents, supporting everything from theme parks to local diners. This year, visits are down by an estimated 65%. That's more than 2.3 million fewer tourists gone. South Florida has been hit especially hard. In Fort Lauderdale, beachfront businesses are reporting 40% losses. Miami-Dade condo associations, once filled with Canadian retirees, now sit with half-empty parking lots. Even real estate transactions involving Canadian buyers have dropped by 55%. The ripple effect is statewide. In Orlando, Disney World and Universal Studios report a combined $200 million 0 cents decline in international bookings. Meanwhile, Gulf Coast towns like Naples and Sarasota are struggling to fill seasonal rentals and canceling community events due to budget shortfalls. Hospitals that catered to snowbirds are seeing strained. Local governments are postponing park upgrades and festival funding. Florida's tourism board is marketing aggressively to South America and Europe, but nothing can fully replace the sheer volume and loyalty of Canadian visitors. For decades, Canadians helped shape Florida's seasonal identity. Now, their absence feels like more than a missing crowd. It feels like a piece of the state's soul has vanished with them. Number 1. New York. New York, the Empire State, a global icon of energy, culture, and commerce. And for millions of Canadian travelers, it was a favorite destination year after year. But in 2025, that rhythm has changed. The buzz is dimmer, the crowds are thinner, and the economic pain is impossible to ignore. In 2024, over 800,000 Canadians visited New York, spending close to $1.7 billion 0 cents. From the bright lights of Broadway to the scenic trails of the Adirondacks, they fueled restaurants, hotels, luxury retail, and beyond. But now, Canadian arrivals are down 52%, and the silence speaks volumes. New York City is ground zero for the impact. Air Canada and WestJet bookings have plummeted 60%. Midtown hotels that once charged $400 0 cents/night are slashing rates in half. Times Square, the Statue of Liberty, even Broadway shows, all reporting sharp drops in international attendance. Some productions have gone dark altogether. But it's not just NYC. In Niagara Falls, Buffalo, and Plattsburgh, shop owners report 30–45% revenue losses. Outlet malls once bustling with Canadian shoppers now feel like ghost towns. High-end restaurants are facing waves of reservation no-shows. The ripple is real. Jobs are being cut, budgets are tightening, and the warmth of that familiar northern neighbor feels distant. For New York, the Canadian boycott isn't just a tourism issue. It's a blow to its identity as a cross-border cultural hub. And unless something changes soon, the Empire State might be standing tall but bleeding quietly. So there you have it, 10 U.S. states, each feeling the quiet sting of a vanished friendship. This wasn't just a drop in tourism. It was a rupture in decades of cross-border trust, travel, and tradition. From Florida's sun-soaked beaches to Maine's rugged coastline, the message is clear. When neighbors stop visiting, the impact runs deep. But this story isn't over. Will diplomatic tensions ease? Will the boycott end? Or are we witnessing the start of a long-term shift in North American travel? We want to hear from you. Do you live in one of these states? Have you noticed the difference? Tap your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this breakdown eye-opening, like, subscribe, and share for more in-depth stories that uncover the truth behind the headlines. Because sometimes silence speaks the loudest.